stand is before the jurors and alternates are present as before. Good morning again. Thank you. Dr. White, good morning again, sir. Do you acknowledge you're still under oath and you're still sworn to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. This resumption of cross-examination, Mr. Walgren.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm holding defense WW. I'm opening the envelope. Removing defense WW from the envelope. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Dr. White, you were here in court when Mr. Chernoff presented this to Dr. Schaefer, correct? And I'm referring to defense WW.
I believe so, yeah.
And did you provide this to defense counsel?
No, I did not.
Let me show you. Do you see how the venting cap has been removed to make it appear different than it normally would?
Yeah, it looks like it broke off, actually.
Did you do that?
No, I did not.
No?
No.
Did you put this milky substance in the IV tubing?
I don't. I may have.
Did you put this milky substance in?
I don't recall if I did. I honestly don't. I certainly did not break the cap off the venting port, no.
And do you see this kind of reddish coloring on the short tube? Do you know what that is?
No idea. I don't know that I've seen this.
But you would agree that in some manner it's been modified, whether broken or otherwise, it has been modified to make the venting cap look different. Would you agree with that?
It looks like it's missing. As I recall,
would you agree with my statement that it's been modified, either it broke off or something?
It looks like it, yeah.
When you say missing, because there's actually a plastic cap that would go over this and cover this hole, correct?
The ones, yes, the ones I'm familiar with, if I may, have where that little side areas, it's connected and it's a little flap type device. I've never seen this setup before.
Yeah. I've left defense WW on the Elmo. I'm opening People's 157, the recovered IV set, removing People's 157. Dr. White, looking at People's 157, you see the actual evidence item has the venting cap in place.
Correct.
Okay. It's different than defense WW, correct?
Correct.
But your testimony is you have no idea how that cap was removed from defense WW?
No idea. I've never seen it before.
It wasn't done to mislead Dr. Schaefer, was it?
That's argumentative. The objection of the court is sustained. Did you replace 157?
I replaced People's exhibit. I'm placing defense WW back in the envelope.
Thank you.
Would you agree that that IV tubing, and we'll just use defense WW, I'm removing it again, Your Honor. Would you agree that this is very compact and would be easily concealable? Would you agree with that statement?
I guess, I don't know what you mean by easily conceivable. I mean,
well, it could be slipped into a pocket, right?
Presumably, yes.
Okay.
I have not tried to do it myself or held it in my hand. So
it fits in my hand, right?
It does almost fit in your hand. I mean, some of it's outside the palm of your hand, yes. But
would you agree that it would be easily concealable? It's a compact component.
It could be, yes.
Now, you initially, again, you've explained that it was just preliminary thoughts, but you initially attributed the death by blaming it on Michael Jackson, speculating that he drank propofol and killed himself, correct?
I speculated that oral administration may have played a role.
That Michael Jackson drank the propofol himself, and that may have played a role in his death.
Self-administration, yes.
And you now reject that theory, right?
I don't reject completely self-administration theory. I reject that oral administration contributed. There was some propofol in his stomach.
And that's to be expected, right?
Well, we know from the studies that Dr. Schaefer did in Chile that oral administration of propofol can result in significant levels in one of his 6 volunteers.
I'm not asking about the Chilean study. You reject that Michael Jackson drank propofol, and you reject that caused his death, right, as a cause of death.
I think the evidence suggests that he did not drink propofol, correct?
So do you, as you sit here today under oath, do you reject that as a theory?
As a cause of death, yes.
But you did from the outset, as early as March 8th, 2011, attribute a possible cause of death to Michael Jackson himself, correct?
Yes.
And you concluded in that, although you say they're preliminary thoughts, you concluded he either self-administered or he drank propofol, correct?
Yes. And I base that, if I may, on some of the other expert testimony that I read in February.
Which testimony are you referring to? Because there's no report where any other expert speculates about oral consumption of propofol. Which report are you referring to?
I thought it was reported by a Dr. Ruffalo.
Okay, do you have that with you? Can you show me the reference where he wrote a report talking about oral propofol? Do you have that with you?
I didn't say it was a report. I think it was in a preliminary hearing, if I recall.
Oh, where Mr. Flanagan asked him about oral propofol. Is that what you're referring to? Is that what you're referring to?
Perhaps, yes, perhaps.
Okay. What caused you... well, let me go back. How long did you have to prepare this report of yours dated March 8th, 2011? Did you say it was done quickly, or did I mishear?
Are you referring to the letter?
Right.
The letter I was asked to prepare on very short notice, I think a couple of days, and I was extremely busy at the time, but I agreed to provide a letter giving my preliminary thoughts based on the information I'd reviewed at that time.
And now, again, you've had 7 months now, but again, the only letter I have is this one that you had to rush. Is that your testimony?
I have not been asked to prepare a report, so you're correct.
But again, then in I guess a couple days' time, is that fair? That you were asked to analyze the case and then provided this letter? Was that about 2 days? Is that accurate?
Well, I had more than 2 days to read the number of reports that were sent. There were a number of expert reports.
So how long a period of time, roughly?
I think it's vague. I think you need to refine the question.
What is the 2-day reference referring to?
That was the time from when Mr. Flanagan contacted me and told me they needed something in writing, I think was the words, not a formal report, just some preliminary thoughts on the materials that I had looked at.
So he asked you to put your thoughts in writing, and it took about 2 days, and then you gave him this letter that was turned over in discovery. Is that your testimony?
No, I did not say it took 2 days. He just told me he needed something in writing within a couple of days. So there was some time frame, a short time frame to get it done. I had other activities that I was involved in. So,
and of course, I mean, you knew it was part of discovery in this case, right? You knew this was a pending criminal case, right? You knew you were being consulted by the defense as an expert, and they asked you to put your findings in writing, correct?
I didn't know the details of the case in that regard. I was asked to render a preliminary opinion or thoughts based on some expert reports I was given.
Is there anything in here where you say these are my preliminary thoughts or my preliminary opinion? Is that stated anywhere in your March 8th, 2011 letter?
As I stated
Is that stated
previously,
anywhere in your March 8th, 2011 letter?
Sir, I haven't looked at that letter in some time, so I'd have to review it in detail.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
You
Your Honor?
may.
May you read this to yourself silently, please, and let me know when you've had a chance to review it. Have you had a chance to review it?
Yes, I have.
Does anywhere in your letter dated March 8, 2011, does anywhere in there, does it say that this is just your preliminary thoughts, preliminary opinions?
I didn't use the word preliminary, but I also did
Is the
not.
answer that no, it's not in there?
That exact word I don't think is in there. I didn't find that word in there, but I also didn't find the word saying it was oral administration. I said self-administration orally or parenterally,
Right, you said both.
either or.
It is my opinion, I'm quoting, it is my opinion that Mr. Jackson self-administered these drugs intravenously and or orally. Correct?
That sounds correct, yes.
There's nothing characterizing that as simply preliminary finding or something you're going to supplement later on, is there? It says it's your opinion that Michael Jackson self-administered either intravenously or orally, correct?
Correct, based on the information that I had been able to review in the short time prior to writing a letter to Mr. Flanagan, yes.
And the information you reviewed, I believe you said on direct examination, you did a word search for, I believe, and if I'm misstating, please correct me, you did a word search for oral propofol, and that didn't come up with the piglet study, and then you wrote your report. I mean, was there other research that you did regarding oral propofol before you put this in writing?
I don't believe so. I did send an email to Dr. Ian Glenn in the UK, but I'd have to check my computer to see exactly when I sent that email.
But your recollection as you're here today is you did a word search for oral propofol, and it didn't come up with anything?
I didn't find anything, even in animals. So that's why I called Dr. Glenn, who I knew had performed some early animal studies, and I thought he might be able to provide me some information.
Well, in fact, he told you it was not orally bioavailable.
That was months after I...
Okay, I'm talking about, I understand that. I'm talking about what type of research you did before putting this in writing. You did a word search for oral propofol, and you didn't find anything. Is that accurate?
And I looked at the autopsy report, which showed propofol in the stomach, the gastric contents.
Okay.
And
is that anything else? As far as your opinion, you said, it's my opinion that Mr. Jackson self-administered these drugs intravenously and or orally. As far as the issue of propofol being orally bioavailable from a scientific point of view, did you do any other research other than doing a word search for oral propofol?
Well, later, yeah, we
Prior
commissioned.
to putting in writing your opinion, did you do any other research on the science of the oral bioavailability of propofol?
I could not find any scientific information.
So you had no scientific information and wrote this report stating that it was your opinion that he either orally ingested or self-administered propofol, correct?
I was just trying to cover all the possibilities, and since there was nothing to the contrary in the literature and it had not been studied, I just thought it was appropriate to leave open the possibilities, and that included giving additional propofol either intravenously or orally. I didn't
And
want
Mr. Flanagan directly requested that you comment on oral propofol prior to writing that letter, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what you mean by commented on it.
Mr. Flanagan raised the issue to you so that you would address it in your letter dated March 8th, 2011, correct?
Yes, I think if what you meant by he mentioned that there was some discussion of this with the coroner, I believe, Mr. Rogers, and
Oh, can you reference that? Where's that? Where's that?
I'd have to look at Mr. Rogers' interview, I guess, to find it.
Okay. You want to see the autopsy report and point out to me where he says oral propofol is a viable option?
Your Honor, he's stating the witness regarding the difference between transcript and...
All right, the objection sustained. I think we need to be on the same page. You can refine the question. Sustained.
Mr. Flanagan raised the issue of oral propofol to you prior to writing your March 8th, 2011 report. Is that correct?
Yes, he asked
you.
me. Okay.
He raised the issue. Thank you. And you said now here today that you wrote it because you wanted to list or essentially provide all the possibilities. Is that accurate?
Well, I wanted to list possibilities that seemed reasonable, yes.
Yeah. And the two possibilities you came up with put the blame, in your mind, squarely on the deceased victim, correct?
Well, if Dr. Murray had only given the 25 milligrams that he claims to have given, there had to be some other factor that contributed to Mr. Jackson's demise.
In your March 8th, 2011 letter, the only two options you came up with were you blamed it on Michael Jackson for possibly orally ingesting, and you blamed it on Michael Jackson for possibly self-administering, correct? Those are the two options you came up with, correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And since that time, you've rejected oral propofol, and now you've come up with a new theory to say that Michael Jackson did it himself, correct?
I'm going to state in the evidence, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Well, did you mention that Michael Jackson swallowed 8 2-milligram lorazepam pills in your March 8th, 2011 letter?
No, because at that time I had not had time to really analyze the lorazepam levels until my colleague Dr. Schaefer provided his report, which I think was in mid-April.
And so that's a new theory that you came up with that followed the March 8th, 2011 letter, correct?
It's not a new theory. It's just, I guess, represents a more in-depth look at all the information available. The theory still is that the death was a result of a rapid IV injection of propofol.
Have you ever put forth a theory other than, in your mind, blaming it on Michael Jackson himself?
Well, if you're asking if I believed what Dr. Murray stated, I did take his word that he administered 25 milligrams of propofol because the prior night he had been trying to wean Mr. Jackson from propofol.
Right, so you took everything Conrad Murray said as the truth, right, in your evaluation?
Well, I certainly...
Yes or no?
Okay, yes.
Okay. And the theories you've revealed to us are that Michael Jackson orally ingested. You've rejected that now. You had said Michael Jackson self-administered. That's still one of your theories, correct?
Yes.
And you've now, based on your further review, also attribute lorazepam to being consumed by Michael Jackson self-ingesting, correct?
Yes, since the
So have
level...
you come up with any theories, as you've consulted with the defense, have you come up with any theories other than attributing the drug intake to Michael Jackson himself?
The theories that I've come up with are not based on what I've been told by the defense attorneys. They're based on my interpretation of the data.
Did you understand my question, Dr. White?
I guess not. Can you
Okay,
restate it?
Sure. Did you come up with any theory from your initial evaluation to today's data? Have you come up with any theory other than attributing the drug intake to Michael Jackson himself, either orally or self-ingestion, and either propofol or lorazepam? Have you put forth any other theory?
I don't believe so.
Were you concerned in your review of Conrad Murray's statement to the police, were you concerned about whether or not Conrad Murray had provided all the information that he knew to the police?
Your Honor, that calls for...
I'm not sustaining the objection. It's vague and ambiguous.
Well, you indicated previously that, in your opinion, Conrad Murray failed to disclose to the paramedics in UCLA that he administered propofol because it was something he overlooked, correct?
I think I said that was a possibility.
And I think you conceded that another possibility was he was simply lying, correct?
That's always a possibility, yes.
So did that, you still, as you've, just so we know what the basis of your opinion is, when you read Dr. Murray's statement to the police, you take everything he says in there as the truth, correct?
Regarding the drug administration, yes. And I might add that's because it's consistent, in my opinion, with the toxicology and the
We'll get to that.
physical
Yeah,
information.
we'll get to that, Dr. White. Now, in your, who is, I don't want to mispronounce her name, Dr., is it Ornelas?
Gabriella Mellon Ornelas with an O.
And she's a, what is she? She's a student at USC, or
No.
she's a graduate student, or she's a doctor? What is she?
She's a Caltech graduate who completed a PhD degree at the University of Toronto, and she has
Is she a medical doctor?
She is studying, no, she's a PhD, and she has now completed a master's in
What are you referring to?
biomedical engineering at USC and is completing her PhD in biomedical engineering.
Can I ask what you're referring to?
Yeah, I'm just referring to her curriculum vitae.
Okay. And when did you meet Ms. Ornelas for the first time?
I met her for the first time last week.
Last week you met with her. Had you ever spoken to her before that?
No, I had not.
So last week you met with her and asked her, to create some computer models for you?
No, I was concerned that the amount of propofol.
I'm asking you, you met with her last week. Did you ask her to create some computer models for you, yes or no?
Your Honor, that's can't be answered yes or no. He's got to be...
Of course it can be.
If I don't even know if there's an objection, but if there is one, it's overruled. You may answer if you're able.
Did you, when you met with her, did you ask her to create computer simulation models for you, yes or no?
No, I did not ask her initially to create the models.
Subsequent to last week, you did ask her to create models?
What I asked her was if she could calculate the amount of free propofol, that is, unmetabolized propofol, that you would expect to find in the urine after a 1,000 milligram infusion given between 9 and 12 on the 25th of June. Because
And my question is, did you ask her subsequent to your first meeting, or did you ask her to create some computer simulation models for you? Yes or no?
I don't recall asking her specifically to create models.
Did she create the models that you presented in court?
She did.
Okay. Was that at your request?
I do not recall specifically asking her to create models. I asked her
This was just last week that you met her? And we have models now here today in court, and you don't recall if you asked her to create those?
She created them overnight and emailed them to me. I asked her...
What day did she create them? Do you know?
I would have to check the emails.
Mr. Waldman, let me know when it's convenient to take the mid-morning break, please.
This is fine, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do that. Please remember all the admonishments. Be about a 15 or 20-minute break, somewhere around 30 minutes after or 35 minutes after the hour. All right? Thank you. Please enjoy the break. And Dr. White, after the...